And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to another High Vibe conversation. I'm your host, Shel Shapiro, and with me today are Jenny Langren, Dorit Carlson, Linda Vettrus-Nichols, Stina Marie, and our special guest, Simon Haigh, the growth strategist. Today, we will be talking all about authentic relationship marketing, and we are so excited to do so. Before we get into the conversation and before I give Simon the floor a little bit, I want to remind you that this is a safe space. We invite you to share with us as we talk through our life lessons and hold space for you to do the same. So what this means is that if at any point in the conversation, whether you're catching us live or on the replay, please feel free to drop your thoughts into the chat, share them with us. If something is resonating with you, if you have a similar experience, if you want to add to the conversation in any way, we will make sure, even if we don't get to it on the live right now, we will make sure to get back to your comments afterwards as well so that we can continue these wonderful high vibe conversations with you. If you are new here and you'd like to catch up on some of the previous conversations, you can please subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link is here for you to do that. I will share this again at the end of the live as well. And if you are particularly called to have high vibe conversations of your own and you want to continue that conversation with one of us in particular, you can schedule your own one-to-one conversation with one of us and have that individual conversation with us using this link. Again, I will share that at the end of this live as well for you to be able to book that with us and do that. Okay, so without further ado, authentic relationship marketing is waiting for us to dive in. Simon, we are so thrilled to have you here with us today. Why don't you tell everyone, if they don't know who you are already, who you are, what you do, what are you doing in the world?
Well, thanks, Shel, and it's great to see everybody else, and welcome to the world out there. And so I'm Simon Haigh. I'm known as the growth strategist, and in a nutshell, what I do is, if you can imagine a seesaw, on the one end of the seesaw, I help organizations try and identify and achieve their purpose, and on the other end, I help leaders or entrepreneurs try and identify and achieve their potential. And for me, I know we're talking about relationship marketing. Everything is and should be about people and relationships. And so that's what it's just a privilege to be here because it's right down my street. It's about relationships. And if you can imagine, there's a triangle with revenue, risk, reputation. That's what governs business. You're not going to make revenue, risk, or reputation without relationships. So I'm looking forward to the chat.
Well, we are just excited to have that conversation more with you right now. So let's get started. When it comes to relationship marketing, what's coming up for you? Like, what's the number one thing you think people need to know, Simon, in order to do this better for themselves, have more authentic relationships?
The word that comes out for me always is connection, right? It's connection and authenticity as well. But I like to start with connection. And there's somebody in the States called Ted Rubin, who's a good friend of mine. And he often says, people buy from people and brands they trust people and brands they like, and they like people and brands they connect with. And for me, it's all about connection and communication. I found out when I was doing business in China a few years ago, and I managed to close business deals. And I didn't really speak Chinese and they didn't speak English, but we had an interpreter. I realized that communication is connection. And so when I'm talking to all of you, communication doesn't happen when the words come out of my lips. Communication happens when you are feeling what I say. And so, if you want to sell, you need to connect. Of course, you can flog things one off and there are discount stores. We're not talking about that. But if you want to continually sell and be successful, you have to connect and you have to make the recipient of what you're saying feel as though what you're saying, you mean what you say, and they need to feel value in it. So that's where I start. So connection is the key.
Connection definitely is the key. And what comes to mind for me is a brilliant friend of mine, Roy Kowarski. He's over in Australia, so like in the future, if you will, from my time, about 14 hours ahead of me. He always uses this quote, right? Show someone how interested in you are in them before telling them how interesting you are. And so that's, I think, summarizes nicely exactly what you're saying, Simon, is like you have to show interest in the other person or in order for them to feel connected to you. You can't just like throw a cold pitch at them and expect them to be primed and ready to buy. There's
Yeah,
no like and trust there.
no, absolutely. I mean, there are times when you're lucky and it happens, but if you want to be consistently good at marketing and projecting your brand and selling, you have to listen. Don't just listen, but really hear, really be empathetic, really listen to what is not being said back. I often say that we listen not just with our ears, but with our eyes, with our heart and our soul. And I know Jenny and Linda would connect with that. You listen with the 4 aspects. So don't just listen here. Try and really get to know your audience, make it about them, be consumer oriented, and ask yourself, instead of how can I sell to this person, how can I serve this person? If you want to be consistently good at this stuff. And authenticity for me is the magic ingredient that facilitates that stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yes. Thank you, Simon. Jenny, I'm coming over to you now because, of course, Simon touched on something and how you connect with your clients and show interest in other people. So what's coming up for you as we're talking more and more about authentic relationship marketing?
Well, people will remember how I made them feel and feel about themselves. What kind of story am I reinforcing or encouraging about who they are and what they want for themselves? And it's really about genuinely caring for them. And we can't fake that. What comes to mind for me is emails in my, on LinkedIn, for example, the messages that come in. There are some messages that just completely make me disconnect from the person straight away. And I can tell that it's when the person is entering the conversation being attached to a certain outcome, being attached to a certain idea that they have of where they want me to go or what they want me to feel or what do they want me to experience. And then there are connections that reach out, genuinely listening, like Simon says, and being genuinely interested in who I am and what I need. And it's just magic when you find your people. And I'm getting better at recognizing who's there to really care or really listen. And I'm getting better at actually blocking people or just choosing what to allow and what to give my energy to. That's what's coming up.
Thank you, Jenny. People really do know when you're not being authentic, right? They can tell if you're, as you said, you feel it. You can tell when somebody's coming to you from a place of like expectation, or that this is the way that the conversation is meant to happen, and they try to hold you to that and keep putting the same things out there. So I really feel what you're saying.
That is the scary part about being an entrepreneur, that it is a creation. It is a process where you engage with people and you don't know. You don't know where that's going to take you or what you will create together or what's going to happen. And it takes a lot of courage to not be attached to controlling the conversation or, thinking that it must look a certain way, but recognizing that it's a co-creation and I'm not alone determining results. And I get to be curious and discover it for myself as well and learn along the way. Linda has definitely been a big support in navigating that for me as an entrepreneur.
You said something that I kind of want to drop some confetti on, but I also didn't get the full quote. And so I would like to ask if you can repeat it. I don't know if it's duplicable. I don't know if that's a word or if I just made it up. But you said something like it takes a lot of courage to not be attached. And then to the conversation, what was the rest of that thought? If you can just repeat that, because it was so profound.
Oh, that was from the soul. It's hard to repeat what's from the soul.
Outcome.
The outcome.
To not be
The
attached to
outcome.
the outcome.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. It was too good to not have it repeated. And so, Linda, as long as you're diving in here, I would love for you to add to this conversation, as I know you can. What's coming up for you as we talk about authentic relationship marketing?
Yes, I totally agree, Jenny. Let go of the outcome. You never know what's going to come out of a connection, right? Simon's going to, let's just end the live and play Simon Says, because Simon's just nailed it already. And the number one thing that I do with people in order to connect is it's always completely outside of what I'm doing for business, is if I see a meme, if I see a video, if I see something or someone tells me about a book, I will send that to somebody just like in messaging. If I'm out online and there's a post that I know is going to resonate with somebody, I'll tag them. I never do anything outside of what they've shown me they're interested in. And also, even just when I'm doing my own memes, it's not like, did you know? Because that's such a turnoff. It's like, I'm superior to you. Did you know? I don't start my post with, did you know? So, yeah, it's just a gentler way. And you've all done books with me. So it's not this hardcore right brain or left brain, like, here's my book, sign up here, do this, do that. You know, we just slip it in naturally. We talk about each other's book. That is huge. When you have those kinds of connections, those relationships with people, that all comes very naturally for them to just say, oh, you got to check out Linda's book, or oh, you got to check out Jenny's book. And that sells books way more than, you know, if we're talking about our own books. So even when we put out our first posts on our books, we don't even share the Amazon link. We're waiting for people to say, where do I get your book? That's going to sell a book. If someone's saying, where do I get your book? You put out the link. It's probably not just them that's going to buy. Oh, somebody's asking for their book. You know, the ego loves that. Yeah. You melt my heart, Simon. I was so excited that you were going to do this episode with us because you really, really get it. Simon, and pretty much anybody Simon knows, is the same way. They get connection. And yeah, I've just had such beautiful conversations, and thank you, you know, that you did the World Thought Leaders thing with my husband, Ambassador Vettrus-Nichols, because then I got to meet Mike Stevenson, and now Mike's got an incredible book out in the world that actually umbrellas all of our High Vibe individual books. It's been really fun.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear that, Linda. And, you know, Mike is a special person. And, you know, there's so much coming out of this, you know, just to kind of summarize a little bit, reaffirm what Jenny said, you know, about, I think Buddhism talks about you need to have a plan to sell or a plan to market, but don't attach yourself to the outcomes. And for me, you know, sales marketing requires, of course, you need to have product knowledge. You need to have a marketing psychology, but equally, or if not more important, active listening, adaptability, be prepared to shift and move, empathy. And then empathy for me is getting a sense of somebody else's feelings and then meeting them there. It's not ignoring their feelings, and it's not trying to bully or override. And then finally, what I call really gentle storytelling. You know, it's and allowing yourself to be vulnerable as well. Like this week, I posted on LinkedIn that I completely messed up with a client. I made a big mistake last week and I underperformed. And rather than hide or pretend it didn't happen or bully them or obscure it, I've owned up to it and I've apologized, and I'm giving free time to them, right? And some people would say, some traditional salespeople would say, you're allowing your vulnerability to overcome your logic. But what comes out of that is you don't just get a sense of the parameters with the client, you get a better sense of you and how you handle vulnerability, and that makes you more mature, and that makes you a better person, and it makes you better able to deal with the next scenario. So even selling and marketing is a learning experience. You know, it's a constant learning experience. We're human. We make mistakes. None of us are going to get it right. And so I would rather work with somebody who is honest about frailties and vulnerability and mistakes rather than put on a brave face. You know, there's so much to this.
It's almost like if somebody's masking and you don't know, like if they're putting on that brave face and they really aren't showing you or being vulnerable enough to break down those walls to show you who they really are or what they need, how are you ever supposed to really know how you can support them or where you can meet them? Because you don't know exactly what's on the other side. You don't know where they're at to meet them at that point. And so if somebody like yourself can be vulnerable and show like, hey, yeah, like oops, like this happened, or I didn't show up fully, and like I made a mistake, and you're showing that you're more relatable. You're showing you're personable, and that people can trust you actually even more because you owned up to it. So I love what you're saying.
And just to build on that, that doesn't mean that they're going to love you or going to like you or they're going to accept it or you're going to get more work, right? Because what other people think of you is none of your business. It's what you think of you. But as long as you're authentic, right? As long as, you know, and Bill George has written a great book called True North. It's a wonderful book on authenticity. And he says that, and I don't know whether I can remember this, but authenticity is having an appreciation of and living by what defines you, your values, beliefs, and attitudes. Jenny often talks about this. It's about being true to yourself. And I think the best salespeople are true to themselves. Don't expect the sale. And when you don't expect the sale, the universe, in a funny way, rewards you, as long as you're being authentic.
That's so true. Like oftentimes, like some of like my best clients come in, like my most aligned clients, are showing up when it's not forced, when things just feel natural and like the conversation just flows easily, and there's a lot of trust and lines of communication are open, and that we've taken the time to build it without any barriers or expectations. So yes, it does come more naturally when we let that go.
I'm always looking for the red flags, you know, and green flags. What is with this person that is not going to bode well for both of us, really? You know, so is this really in alignment for this person? Like, I know what I do, I know what I'm capable of, and you know, does it make sense for this person to even work with me?
And and I think what affects people the most is whether you are at peace with you. If you're making a big success, or if you're, you know, learning through hoops along the way, if you are at peace with yourself, and if you are giving yourself the freedom to be and enjoy your authentic self, people are going to enjoy you. They're going to be at peace being around you. They're going to be freed being around you to give themselves permission to explore who they are and enjoy themselves. And I think that's what's coming to me. Just being at peace with you and your journey is huge. People being comfortable.
Yeah, I spoke to an academic from Croatia about a year ago. Her name is Dr. Alenka Bracec-Lalic. I think I got the name right. And she made a huge impact on me. And she was talking about authentic. She studies this whole area of compassionate leadership with a view to getting results, right? At the end of the day, we're trying to sell, right? We're not trying to be pushovers or lie on our backs and be taken advantage of, right? But you can still do that authentically. And she says, and if you follow this through, she says, authenticity is the timeless currency of trust. Authenticity leads to trust. Trust leads to engagement. Leadership performance leads to transformative change, and transformative change leads to sustainable impact. So everything starts with authenticity. And yet for some reason, you know, the traditional way of looking at sales and leadership never really anchored itself in authenticity. But I think more and more people, particularly coming out of the pandemic, are realizing that if without emotional intelligence, self and situational awareness and relationship management, you're not going to be around long. You know, of course there are dinosaurs, of course there are rogues and crooks out there, but if you want to have a good name and be successful, you've got to be authentic.
And at the end of the day, it's going to shine through anyway. People, like, if you can only keep it up for so long before people are going to be like catch on to what it is that you're putting out there. So Dorit, I'm coming down to you now. What's coming up for you as we talk about authentic relationship marketing?
I was thinking about when I used to manage the pet shop, and when I started there, and during the 10 years I was there, I connected with the clients because I asked questions. I didn't just take the money and give them a product. I asked them a lot of questions about their animals, their pets, their fish, their whatever they had, and then I could suggest things that might help them. For instance, a person came into the shop wanting something because their dog sheds a lot. But what is it this person needs? Does it need a brush? Does it need a special shampoo, a special kind of dog food, or a special kind of supplement to help the dog? So by asking the questions and listening, like was Simon said earlier, and just really being interested in the client and what their needs is and how we best can serve their problem in a way. That's how we do it. And by doing that, I didn't just sell the brush, I sold them all. Really? Because I didn't try to sell them anything, but I suggested to resolve this problem, we have this, and this. So if you start with this product now you know that these are available and can help you in the future. So
it's all about the education.
Yeah.
And my favorite story is when the man kept coming in and buying bags and bags and bags of treats.
Yeah.
And so, like, what kind of a salesperson cuts her sales? So Dorit's a good salesperson, and she does that. Can you tell that story super quick?
Yeah, super quick. Yeah. So this guy comes in with a big dog, like once a week, and he buys big bags of like liver treats for the dog. And after a while, I got really curious about the amount of treats that this dog was getting, and I was like, "Do you feed this to your dog? Is this your dog's food, or do you feed him something else, or how does this work? Are you specially training him for something, or how are you using these treats?" And he said, "No, you see, when I'm walking my dog, and I walk my dog quite a lot because of his back, he needed to be up and moving, and every so often the dog just sits down, and I give him a fistful of treats, and then he starts walking again, and I'm like, why?" And so he was rewarding the dog to just randomly sit down, because that's when he gave him the treats. So I said, well, you're reinforcing that. You're teaching your dog that if you sit down, I give you treats. So he was not he was not aware of that. So I said, well, if you try to just back up, like hold the treats, like you're going to give it to the dog, and back up just a few steps, and when the dog stands up and takes one step towards you, then give him the treats. So you reward him for being up on his paws and walking. And he did that, and it cut my sales on liver treats, but he bought a lot of other stuff because he trusted me after that.
There you go. or the other
Yeah.
ones do. You know, you might lose
Yeah.
that client or half your sales, but like you said, you know, people then bought it all.
So I think that's great, and to be able to kind of personalize things. I used to work in like a food shop, and we had these numbers for members that got So with the regular customers, I remembered their numbers. There was 4 digits, so I just managed to remember those every time they said them to me, and I entered them in, and after a while I remembered them, and when I started just doing them, they always choose to come to me because I was
You're
kind
their
of
number.
special. Yeah,
I've got your number.
yeah, or remember what kind of cigarettes they needed, or just little things like that. Building rapport and listening to people, and
And knowing them individually.
yeah, and
Mhm.
you guys have said it all with the empathy and the connection and all of that, of course. But showing genuine interest and asking questions is always good, in my opinion.
Yeah. I often say stop selling and start educating. Use that
Yeah.
word, you know, and the other thing then around communication, I've studied the neuroscience of communication, and of the 100% of what makes us connect with somebody else, only 7% in terms of importance is what we say. 28% is how we say things, and 65% is body language. Now online it's different, right? But the point is, how we communicate to somebody is 4 times more impactful in terms of how you make them feel than what you say. So how fast you speak, which words you emphasize, the rhythm of your voice, you know, is it boring and monotone, or does it bring people in? And most importantly, the tone of your voice. Is it soft, gentle, empathetic, considerate, or is it dismissive, passive aggressive, etc.? And I'm just amazed at how many salespeople don't realize the importance of how they speak. You know, they're dictatorial, or they're forceful, or they don't even think about empathy. They've lost you, because it's 4 times more important than what they're saying. You know,
Yeah.
anyway, there's the whole world.
Jenny was commenting how like a high-end coach, you know, connected with her, and as soon as he kind of like ferreted out that she wasn't interested in being his client, he started moving papers on his desk and typing on his computer. Talk about being dismissive. It's just like, oh, so rude.
Absolutely, and when we meet people face to face, body language, eye contact, things like that. Because when you go into a shop and you're met with a salesperson that's like nya, 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 like chewing gum or looking everywhere, and you know, just yeah.
My favorite salespeople are the ones that just let you wander around. They, you know, and if you make eye contact with them, then they ask you, and then they back off again, and I'm just letting you know I'll be over here if you need anything. I love that. I don't like high pressure sales.
Yeah, it's just amazing how people just forget the importance of trust. You know, I mean, you're more likely to succeed with everything in life if you operate through relationships built upon mutual trust. And I don't think a lot of people could even define what trust is. You know, it's and also we have different definitions of trust. In the Western world, we tend to trust unless somebody lets us down. But I spent time in China, and they have a concept called guangxi, which loosely translated means you need to earn trust. And so for me, trust and hope are the glues that keep civilization going. And yet we don't seem to. I think we should be taught trust at school, you know, because it's the essence of everything. It's all about trust.
It really is all about trust. And beyond, like, I can't even remember doing, except like in summer camp or like occasionally as a kid having to do like a trust fall exercise. And I put that loosely in air quotes for no other reason than like, you don't really build anything just by falling back into somebody's arms. Like if you're like not willing or ready or have that trust already enough to be able to do that, then just doing that exercise is pointless. I I don't even think I ever like went through with it because I didn't trust the people enough around me that they would catch me and support me. So I do agree that there should be some level earlier on of like building those relationships and communicating so that people can develop the trust that's necessary in order to continue on in the world. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. So Stina, I'm coming down to you. What's coming up as we talk about authentic relationship marketing?
Thanks, Shell. Great conversation. I have a note from pretty early in the conversation from Simon about value being felt, and then also this idea of letting go of the outcomes. I think that when we talk about sales and we say don't be attached to the outcome, what we really mean is like don't be attached to, in this conversation, in this moment, having this person say, yes, I will buy the thing from you. Here is my credit card, right? Because that's the outcome that we will get attached to. And what happens is there are actually like so many outcomes that you could have from an exchange with someone. There's so many beneficial ways that you could connect with this person. And it may be immediately beneficial, or it may be beneficial in a month, a year, 5 years. Like you have no idea the impact of a conversation or exchange that you have with someone. And so when you let go of that one outcome, you open yourself up to the possibility of infinite outcomes and potentially far more benefit than them handing you their credit card in that moment. And so when you operate in that way, people feel that, because no one likes to feel like everything is on their shoulders, right? So you see this with like very rookie like coaches selling, is like, I got a consult booked on my calendar and maybe I'm going to get a new client. They're already thinking like new client, new client, new client. And really the focus just should remain on the marketing, the connection, the putting yourself out there. Yeah, get more consults on your calendar. That's great. But I learned through a lot of practicing with copywriting clients that it's not a new client until it's a new client. Like I don't look at humans and think new client, money in my bank account. I focus on me. I focus on my business. I focus on what I can do. And that makes the business abundant, because, like Linda said, you walk into a store, if someone's too aggressive, you're just like, I don't think I even want to like be in this store right now. And we've all had that probably with like our friends that, hey, I started a new fill in the blank, like multi-level marketing type businesses. Like, and then the people that do those businesses really well, like the superstars that develop those relationships and serve people with what they're doing. But there's always that person that you're like, you don't want to answer their text. You don't want to pick up the phone when they call. You don't want them to see you in the grocery store, like whatever it is, or you're avoiding that person because they're going to do that. But that happens outside the context of business too. You have people in your life, you have friends, you have parents that they want to sell you on something. They have an agenda. They have this is my outcome I'm going for. And so I was thinking about that of course, in a parenting context, because I'm always thinking about conversations I've had with my kids. And parenting is just sales. Parenting is sales and marketing 24/7, because if you don't have trust with your kid and they don't see value in the parenting that you're giving them, they won't listen. They won't come to you when they have needs, and you'll miss out on a lot of opportunities to support them. And so just like with a client, for me in parenting, not being attached to one outcome that I see as immediately beneficial. Things might be messy for a while. I might have to deal with some discomfort. My kids might choose to do things that I wouldn't personally do, but I have to be there to hold space for their mistakes, for the ups and downs. And I have to deliver advice and wisdom in a way that they're willing to listen and digest it and keep coming back for more. And I think that's a big part of relationships too, is like when you're attached to that outcome and trying to prove your value, like that's when you tell someone you can trust me, that's the first person I don't want to trust, right? It's like, show me that I can trust you. Show me that this is valuable, that you have something valuable. Be the proof. Don't just try to prove yourself to me. And so when I, like in parenting, if I remain regulated, if I remain centered and grounded, if I can, share myself, then that's where that authenticity piece comes in and is so powerful in that process.
Wow. That for me summarizes everything. And for me, just to summarize, that was amazing. And I 100% agree. And to summarize from my perspective and what you just said there, Marie, was that real always trumps unreal, because real is what creates trust, And I often, when I coach people, I say, don't expect other people to like, trust, and respect you unless you like, trust, and respect yourself. And in other words, to do this, you've got to go through a process of courage, and I did this about nearly 2 years ago. I decided to intentionally to stop promoting my business, to stop networking, and just stand back and just watch what happened. And funny enough, my business is significantly accelerated since doing that, but it takes courage to do that. And you've got to go through the process of, do I like myself? Do I trust myself? And do I respect myself? And in a funny way, the universe rewards yourself. But I think a lot of people have a problem going through that confidence barrier,
Yeah. As Stina just said, be the proof, right? So I love that. We've covered so many things today about authentic relationship marketing. If you'd like to connect with us, please feel free to do so. We will drop the links into the chat for you to be able to do it. Simon, I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can reach you and find out more about all the amazing things that you've been up to. So tell us now, how can people find you?
Sure. They can find me through my website, simonhaigh.com, HAIGH.com, or LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. Or they can email me at simon@simonhaigh, HAIGH.com. Any one of those platforms.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for a high vibe conversation. We hope you will join us again. If you would like to catch up on previous conversations, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And remember that you can also book in some individualized conversations with us here as well. Simon, we loved having you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And until next time, we will say bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.